Selectmen.
You want to approve the agenda, which would be the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Ayer and the town of Shirley regarding regional dispatch.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
All in favor? Second. Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's confusing with two sometimes, as you guys know.
I know, we just did that for a while, and that's our only agenda item for today.
Yes.
Oh, great. So is it open for discussion?
Yeah. Do you want to outline it, Robert and Patrice?
Mr. Chairman and members of both boards, I think, Mr. Chair, maybe we just start quickly with introductions. I think everybody knows everyone, but there may be some new folks around the table. So I'm Robert Pombrian, the Ayer Town Administrator.
Patrice Garvin, Town Administrator Shirley.
Bob Pedrazian, Fire Chief in Ayer.
Dennis Levesque, Fire Chief in Shirley.
Bill Murray, Police Chief here.
Sam Santiago, Police Chief in Shirley.
Debbie Flagg, Selectmen, Shirley.
Enrico Capucci, Selectman in Shirley.
Holly Haas, Selectmen in Shirley.
Chris Oman, Selectman Ayer.
Janice Livingston, Selectman Ayer.
So, Mr. Chairman, since the last joint meeting of both boards in Shirley back in October, when both boards authorized myself and my colleague, Ms. Garvin from Shirley, to continue with the negotiations to put forth the proposed intermunicipal agreement for consideration for the creation of an Ayer Shirley Regional Dispatch Center. Patrice and I convened a meeting with the respective chiefs and those involved that was held here in Ayer after that meeting, and there have been some subsequent meetings to put together the document that I know everybody has, and I gave hard copies to everyone on the intermunicipal agreement. Additionally, based on that, we received authorization from both boards to have, because we both use KP Law as counsel, this agreement has been reviewed by the Shirley Town Council and the Ayer Town Council as well to form. And I don't want to speak for Patrice, but I believe that what is put forth for consideration is a fair agreement to both towns and is in the interest of both towns and in the obviously the interest of public safety. I also want to add that the state 911 office, and we have Christine Wingfield in your title,
Regional PSAP Coordinator.
Regional PSAP Coordinator, here tonight. The state 911 office has also been a great resource to Patrice and I and the chiefs as putting this together. Lastly, just for the benefit of the public, the intermunicipal agreement is required and agreed to. One is required for the purposes of forming a regional dispatch center, and also is essential to move forward, as we learned in October and surely at the joint meeting, to pursue the various grants and funding from State 911 to make this work. In the interest of time, Mr. Chair, I'll just give a brief overview of the highlights of the agreement, and I do, as anything, and my computer's ready to go, we do have, I talked to Patrice, one recommended change from this that came up, as they always do, in the 11th hour. But what is before is obviously on page 1 is all the sort of formal language that the intermunicipal agreement creates an Ayer Shirley Regional Dispatch Center, which will be the primary recipient of all emergency police, fire, and EMS calls, and located at 54 Park Street in Ayer, which is the Ayer Police Station where the dispatch center would be. The term of the agreement would be for 2 years. We were advised that the term from State 911, the agreement should take effect immediately upon execution. We'll get into that. In other words, and the chiefs can speak to this in more detail. Obviously, there's going to be a period of transition and so forth for integration. The plan was for it to go operational no later than July 1st of 2018. But we were advised for the purposes of the grants and so forth with State 911 that the MOA should should go into effect upon approval by the boards. If you go to page 2, the withdrawal or the termination of the agreement, either party, the town of Shirley or the Ayer Board of the town of Ayer, through the Board of Selectmen, can terminate or withdraw from the agreement with at least 12-month notice. And then you see on Roman numeral 4, the agreement spells out Ayer's responsibilities, and I'm going to just paraphrase in the interest of time that where Ayer would receive the police, fire, and EMS-related emergency 911 calls as the primary PSAP located at the 54 Park Street in Ayer. Ayer will make and receive police, fire, and DPW departments radio transmissions with respect to all responses by the center, conduct the toning out of responding staff from the appropriate town, receive non-emergency police and fire department traffic from participating towns, monitor the activity of all police, fire, and DPW, maintain the logs of all police and fire department, maintain appropriate records, monitor and receive mutual aid requests per the statute, dispatch Shirley resources to respond to all calls pursuant to the agreement, provide the daily radio test, notify other public safety service agencies and utilities. Go on to page 3. Daily operating procedures and administrative management of the center shall be the sole responsibility of the chief of the Ayer Police Department or his or her designee, and we'll come back to management of the center in the agreement momentarily. The police and policies and procedures regarding the operation and administration of the center are the ultimate responsibility of the Ayer Police Chief, subject to consultation with and guidance provided by the Ayer Fire Chief, Shirley Police Chief, and Shirley Fire Chief. Draft policies may be offered by any member community. Draft policies, there's a duplicate, may be offered by any member community. Provide the town of Shirley with a breakdown of how all grant money is expended. Provide the town of Shirley public records officers with a copy of all public records requests made pertaining to the center and or the town of Shirley. Shirley's responsibilities. All policies and procedures concerning public safety in Shirley are the sole responsibility of the town of Shirley. Ayer has no responsibility pursuant to this agreement to respond to any emergencies with Ayer personnel within Shirley. The Shirley Police and Fire Department shall provide promptly the following data to the Regional Dispatch Center as the following new information is available, and this will obviously be provided as part of the integration period as highlighted under A, B, and C. Number 3, if a telephone line failure or technical difficulty, including but not limited to an equipment failure, natural disaster, or storm renders the center unable to provide dispatch services, Ayer shall first attempt to use all available local and state assets to replace such services. However, in the event that those assets are not able to perform the requisite dispatch obligations, the Shirley Police and Fire Department shall assume all responsibilities for police, fire, and EMS dispatch for Shirley, using Shirley's resources at no expense to Ayer until the Regional Dispatch Center is able to resume its services. Sort of the doomsday provision. I mean, obviously in the event that the center would become incapacitated for a natural disaster, so forth, there are contingencies in place, but this language comes from several other agreements of this nature. Then Roman numeral 6 addresses the issue of the personnel of the center. Upon implementation of this agreement, all dispatchers of the center shall be employees of the town of Ayer and governed by the collective bargaining agreement currently in place between the town of Ayer and the APPOA communication workers. Matters involving personnel of the center, including discipline, shall be handled in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement currently in place between the town of Ayer and the APPOA communication workers, or Mass General Law, Chapter 150E. As stated under Section 4, Subsection 12 of this agreement, staffing policies, daily operating procedures, and administrative management of the center shall be the sole responsibility of the chief of the Ayer Police Department and/or his or her designee. 4. Ayer will make every reasonable effort to initially hire qualified Shirley dispatchers for the center. During the transition, Shirley will incur the legal costs associated with their portion of the transition, as will Ayer assume the legal costs associated with their portion of the transition. Unemployment costs of Shirley employees who are not hired by the center will be incurred by Shirley. 5. Shirley shall have a seat at the bargaining table during contract negotiations with the Communication Workers Union. And as I mentioned in October, that contract will be expiring on June 30th of 2018. 7. The conflict and dispute resolution. 1. A conflict resolution board is hereby established for the purpose of resolving any disputes that may occur between the parties during this agreement. Members of the board shall include the chiefs from Ayer and Shirley Police and Fire Departments or their designees. The board shall meet monthly during the term of this agreement or at such other times as agreed to by the parties. And at our last meeting, it was agreed that the 4 chiefs would meet on a monthly basis, especially and probably maybe even more during implementation. 2, no suit upon or claim or cause of action upon or for damages upon by reason of or growing out of this agreement or its non-performance or faulty performance shall be filed or maintainable by any party unless notice of such claim or cause of action be given to the other parties at their address at the end of the agreement, not less than 30 days prior filing, and in every case a reasonable time under the circumstances from the date upon which limitation would commence to run against such claim or cause on behalf of such other party. So if the town of Shirley or if the town of Ayer has a grievance, if you will, or a suit or claim with respect to the center, 30-day filing to start that process. Number 3, in the interest of time, because this was provided by council, gets into if there's a dispute between the 2 parties, the parties being the 2 towns, concerning this agreement. If obviously there's a dispute, 30-day notification, and cannot resolve that, the dispute can be submitted to an arbiter selected by the American Arbitration Association, and that would hear it. The costs associated shall be split evenly between the parties unless resolution is not met within 6 months. This is designed to obviously facilitate resolution. If the towns cannot come to a resolution after 6 months, the host town will be responsible for costs from that point forward. 4, the parties mutually agreed to formulate and implement a management control agreement for IMC and an overview troubleshooting policy, both for the center, upon execution of this agreement. This came from recommendation from State 911 as well as in consultation with other regional centers. These would be developed by the chiefs and would be internal documents that in terms of best practice, there should be a management control agreement for the internal operations of the center as well as an overview and troubleshooting policy. And it was advised that we spell that out in the agreement. 8 is expansion of membership of the dispatch center in the event that the dispatch center seeks to expand its membership. The towns of Ayer and Shirley will have to agree by a majority vote of each board of selectmen. So hypothetically, if town Y wants to join, obviously both boards would have to approve that by a majority vote. Number 9 is the insurance, liability, and indemnification language as provided and reviewed by council. Roman numeral 10 is the Shirley assessment for services of the center. Shirley agrees to pay Ayer the following for all services provided by the center set forth by this agreement. FY 2019 Shirley assessment for services of the center $100,000 billed semi-annually on July 1st and January 1st. FY 2020 Shirley assessment, $120,000 billed semi-annually on July 1st and January 1st. Shirley agrees to submit payment in full for each such bill to Ayer within 30 days of receipt of said bill. Any dispute concerning billing shall be first presented in writing by the disputing party within 30 days, and thereafter shall be resolved in accordance with the conflict resolution section. Shirley shall not be responsible for any of Ayer's costs of operating the center. Ayer shall not be responsible for maintaining Shirley's own radio and computer equipment, nor any obligations under service or support agreements related thereto. Shirley shall remain responsible for funding its own police and fire departments, including any service and support agreements. Section 11, and I mentioned, and I know the board's going to appreciate, there's always a change in the 11th hour. Section 11 was the costs and expenses to upgrade Shirley's dispatch capital infrastructure. And as the boards will recall, when we met in a joint session in October, there are certain costs that Shirley has to upgrade the infrastructure prior to the period of integration for the center. Originally, what you have, sections 1 through 4, sought to spell out this fact, and that and look to pay for this. And in discussing with State 911, what they've recommended is that we strike the language of 1 through 4 still, and under this section, replace the language to read, 1, the parties acknowledge that there will be certain expenses associated with capital infrastructure necessary to effectively transition to the regional dispatch center. 2, the parties mutually agree upon execution of this agreement to timely file for grants through the State 911 Department to cover or defray the expenses associated with the transition to the regional dispatch center. And as the boards recall, when we met in October, there are grant opportunities available and funding available for Shirley to upgrade that infrastructure. However, State 911 requires an executed IMA to proceed, and as we discussed, also the grant in terms of the regional dispatch grant, the application is going to be due in April, sometime in April of 18. Obviously, once we can agree to the IMA, we should begin to work on that application. I talked to Patrice about this from State 911. That proposed language is, I think, clearer than what we had originally put here. Additionally, we do not have, or Shirley does not have, an exact number yet on that infrastructure.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
And I think you might be able to answer it for me. If we apply to the 18 grant, the money wouldn't be received until FY19, correct?
Right, fiscal year 18 is already out. So
Right.
Fiscal year 19 would come out approximately July to
Right.
worst September.
So I think we need to leave in there then, you guys are going to front us the money, correct?
If I may, Town Administrator, I have an estimate what the cost may be. It's about $131,000. That's just the station and radio upgrade. That's just an estimate. This is based on last year's, because we were looking into that about a year, 2 years ago. What the cost would be. It was like $91,000 for just infrastructure at the station, and about $40,000 for radio.
Right.
So we're talking about almost $131,000.
Right, so my concern is if we don't get the money until 19 and we're going to be updating this maybe tomorrow, that language about fronting the money I think still needs to be in there, no?
Well, I have a question. How do we do that without an appropriation? If we don't have an appropriation, we didn't know
That's
this
a
was
really good
coming at
question.
us.
That is a fantastic
That's
question.
actually a really good question.
That's a good. That's
We don't.
We see the challenge, if I may, to the chair, to make the regional dispatch happen. Surely you need to do some infrastructure upgrades.
Right.
That amount, and Chief, the estimated amount, 130,000, could be higher, what have you. You obviously don't have that funding today to do that.
Right.
State 911 has told us that for the funding that is potentially available, we can't apply for that funding until we have an executed intermunicipal agreement in place between the two towns. So the question becomes exactly how do we get to that point? In other words, as Mr. Cabri mentions, we don't have an appropriation on the air side. So how do we?
We do it at annual town meeting, or you do it at annual town meeting. In May.
Which would be in May.
Yeah.
So
Wouldn't the money be needed before that?
Well, I guess the question is, do we approve the agreement tonight, but can it be sustained in the fashion that it is now until said appropriation is available?
What do we have in our dispatch? How much money is in dispatch?
All the money in dispatch at this point is all in wages. The question would be, I'd have to actually look and see, but we'd still have to move that money out.
Yeah.
Did you get my question though? I mean, I know we're kind of putting this together daily, but is there a way to patch this along, even though the agreement is officially accepted, until appropriations are made?
4 months. I mean, there's stuff that can be done before.
Did your number include our fire alarm?
No, it didn't include the fire department, no. What, I don't think so.
I didn't know where your numbers were.
No, that was last year, that was under my.
Because theoretically, this can't go live anyways until those improvements are made,
But
correct?
they didn't include the fire department,
Yeah.
that was just police infrastructure.
Yeah.
I have our numbers.
Okay.
But that's not including radio. No.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Just for the chair, question for my mom. So is there any money that's still available for FY18 if we sign this agreement? Additional money than whatever, the air, police department, cheers. Is there, could there be any kind of
Development grant is
supplemental
competitive,
money?
so for that I would have to say no.
Any kind of grant money?
Not that I'm aware of that I could speak to.
So you're basically asking us to front the money for the town of Shirley to do the infrastructure. And then we would use that money to get reimbursed by the grant?
Our program is a reimbursement program.
It's reimbursable. You get it back.
But you're asking the town of Ayer to front the money?
Yes.
Right. So
You have nothing to contribute?
You're going from $23,000 in support aid to $125,000.
Not in FY18, we're not.
In 19, you would be.
But we have to get the money to you now.
Right, but there's support grant money, and then there's equipment grant money that you would also be eligible to get, that you wouldn't be able to get if you weren't a regional dispatch.
Chair, do you want me to?
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss, I didn't see her.
I'm sorry. So our grant program, so we have support funding that goes to every PSAP.
Right.
Then we have a development grant. So in years past, it's typically around 8 million. Last year we raised it to 12 million. Again this year it'll be 12 million. So in order to qualify for that, you have to be a regional, which means I need to execute an IMA. Nobody else is applying for those funds or being awarded for those funds.
How soon do you need an executed IMA?
But there's still grant guidelines and
October.
timelines, and they're based off the fiscal year. So currently, yes, we are in between those. I'm here to see if there's any issues, so there's a reason I'm out here. But the grant guidelines are still on set timelines. I can't change those.
right.
If Shirley has no money available, the only other option for the town of Ayer to front that money is UDEC.
Or we execute the IMA subject to the appropriation through the annual town meeting.
That was my point.
Well, yeah.
Can we?
It just gets a little delayed.
But we also don't know how much money.
But,
we can
so
work
I
on
guess
that as
my
we-
question is, surely, I mean, there's no way to raise and appropriate money from you or your town meeting or before?
Now $131,000.
And it's gonna be more.
It'll be more.
It'll be more than that.
Right.
You're talking, it's not, probably 30,000. And maybe a little more than that. Probably closer to 40.
Well, I don't know how much of this infrastructure needs to be done like now,
Right.
like right away. When do they need the funds?
So that was my point
If we
about,
start
can we
spending now,
approve this and move along in the I know it hasn't been ideal, but could this be,
I think
Feel
that,
like it has been?
I think we could limp to May.
yeah, that's
It's gonna-
good terminology, that's basically what I was
Yeah,
asking.
I mean, we have only so much money in wages to get us through to the fiscal year. The state gave us additional funds, so we could work on filling the staffing there. So yeah, I think we could limp to May, and then just accelerate it from there. I mean, if the money's not appropriated, the money's not appropriated.
No, understood. And chiefs, I mean, obviously you guys, I defer to you guys in terms of safety and get that.
Well, in the meantime, there are other things we need to work on, other than infrastructure, to get this to run and
Correct.
work. So we're going to work on those things and have those in place
Yep.
way before, hopefully way before it's time for implementation. And then we can, the infrastructure is just
Yeah, 'cause
equipment, and that's.
This is not live tomorrow because there's so
No,
much
right.
involved.
we wouldn't be able to
Right.
turn this
And
around.
We still got to migrate, like
You guys
I
explained
say.
it.
There's
Like so
union
much better
issues
than
that
I
have
did,
to be
but-
worked out.
We have to
And there are the
Union
collective
out.
bargaining issues too to work out, the union issues.
So
To
that
negotiate
seems
the
like
change.
the solution in the interim.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, I prefer you guys, obviously, for your.
I mean, I think the important thing from my perspective is to get the IMA signed and have a commitment by both towns. Show the state that you guys are committed to forming the regional dispatch. Because that seems to be what the state really wants at this point. I mean, every time I
Yep.
talk to Frank, that's his first question. So the important piece is signing this and then figuring out the money part at annual town meeting.
And we can look at what our options are too on that end too. So it won't be, we'll look at what we can do on our end and make sure that, that we take every effort to make it a very short-term fronting of money or whatever.
Right,
We'll look at all our options in our budget.
And the state grant would not be available till July 1, 18?
The grant? No.
Okay.
But it would allow us the right to begin the process of applying for the grants.
yes.
Which is
Correct.
obviously,
Once
yeah.
we sign, and
Once
that's
you,
what we,
once the IMA is signed, I'll show up every day. You'll get annoyed. And we're gonna go
I
over
won't.
everything
They
from
won't.
operations to infrastructure. Everything gets covered.
So,
STM, the spring.
Yeah, we have the marijuana one, much better.
So, in my opinion, it makes sense to approve the IMA so the chiefs can start coordinating implementation, because I know there's issues with, I'm assuming, chief with the building and size and layout and dispatch, I would think.
That's all done.
okay.
Oh, it is all done, but then obviously receiving and all that good stuff.
So, Mr. Chair, for the purposes of this agreement, then we come full circle back to the original language that is in 11, which is the costs and expenses to upgrade Shirley's dispatch capital and infrastructure. Then I'd recommend keeping point 1, which reads, the parties acknowledge that Shirley has dispatch capital infrastructure upgrades necessary to effectively join the regional dispatch center. Strike out, because we don't know.
We don't put a figure on it.
The amount.
Yeah.
2, the parties acknowledge that State 911 currently has competitive grants for these upgrades. That's just an acknowledgement by both parties of that there are these grant opportunities. 3, the parties mutually agree upon execution of this agreement to timely file a competitive grant application with State 911 for the amount needed to upgrade Shirley's dispatch capital infrastructure. So we can just strike by the deadline of, because we'll get that. But I think we all agreed when we had the internal meeting that as soon as the boards do come to an agreement and sign this IMA, that it needs to be a priority to get this grant going.
Absolutely.
And then 4, the parties mutually agree that in order to ensure the timely integration of Shirley into the regional dispatch center, the town of Ayer will advance the funding, and we leave it blank, will advance the funding subject to appropriation at the Ayer annual town meeting for the necessary Shirley dispatch capital infrastructure, and the parties mutually agree that upon receipt of the competitive State 911 grant, the town of Ayer will receive said grant funds to be made whole for said dispatch capital infrastructure upgrades. So
Yeah, that's good.
So, number 4,
Just have to see what you have.
we would advance, the town of Ayer would advance that money subject to approval of town meeting in May of 2018. If we get the grant, or when we get the grant, then we would take, the town of Ayer would take whatever that advance from the grant.
When is the awards given out? What month?
It's supposed to be effective July 1. Typically, they come out around September, though. They have to go to EOPS for approval and final signature.
Okay. Just curious.
Yeah.
You're telling me earlier, I believe, right now?
We haven't picked it.
We were May last year.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you were
usually
moving
say about
up.
May.
Okay.
But we do have a special in March. There's always that possibility of talking about it then too.
Well, I agree with you, Robert. I think we need to approve we'll approve the agreement so we can move forward with the infrastructure and obviously protecting public safety too. And then figure out all this as we go.
I would
So-
agree.
Right, so, just, so 4.4, upon execution, the town of Ayer would advance the necessary, the funding, subject to appropriation of the Ayer annual town meeting. And then, when we receive the grant funding, the town of Ayer will be made whole through that reimbursement.
Right, and the other thing is that we still have 2 years left of our support grant that Air would be getting, so that's additional $40,000 that we were already, the town of Shirley is giving to Air. So that's a piece.
So less the whatever, 150.
So there's more coming to Air than would have been.
And Lisa?
20
But on the other hand, we're not getting paid for any of the months for FY18 as we are for FY19 or FY20. So I think that's kind of fair, actually.
And address the prorated issue.
Yes, it does. And the town of Air, again, will be receiving significant state grants in the future.
But there's no option for the town of Shirley to appropriate this money at their time meeting?
There
I'm
is.
just, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No,
I'm not-
I can appreciate that. I mean, again, I think that by the town merging into a regional dispatch, the town is going to be, have access to funds that had never been had access to, plus the additional $40,000 over the next 2 years.
I mean,
That doesn't mean we won't look at it.
yeah, no, and
Yeah.
I don't really have an issue. Obviously, we're gonna, we have the contract, we're gonna be reimbursed for the grant or whatever. I was just asking this because we're gonna get asked why,
Mhm.
so.
And I think we would, and I believe both Deb and Mr. Cootie, Deb Rico would say the same thing. We'll look at our options. We won't just sit there. We're trying to come to an agreement that we all agree with, that works out for both towns and doesn't put one town in a bad position. So, and we'll find out what we can do on our end as well.
Okay.
We'll look at everything and then we'll make a decision from there. We'll let you know, we'll keep you in the loop all the way through.
And to loop back to the state stuff, we're not gonna sit here July 1 and have you say, oh, by the way, that grant went to Uxbridge.
Well, it's $12 million typically, and we
We'll
may
take it,
actually
that's
raise
fine.
that. But, no, that's only, there's different priorities, but those are only the regionals. So
Okay.
the everyday PSAPs are different, so I think I'm sitting around 20.
All right, so we're pretty much assured with this that,
Oh yeah, we keep projects moving.
okay,
forward.
all right.
So the board, I mean, the rest, I mean, 12 is just the financial safeguards, which is legal pro forma. Then section 13 on severability is again legal pro forma in accordance with the statute. 14 is amendments are to be made in writing. The renegotiation of the agreement Because it's a 2-year agreement, the parties mutually agree that renegotiations would commence no later than 6 months prior to June 30th of 2020. And then the notice, and it has the town administrators as the notice, the term, and then the all-important signature page. So, Mr. Chair, from our perspective, I mean, that was really the last issue, was the language we just discussed, which I mean is ultimately up to the boards as the chief executive policy boards, that we will forward the money subject to appropriation at town meeting. When we receive the money from the state, Ayer will be made whole, and then we will move forward with the assessments of $100,000 for FY19, $120,000 for FY20 from Shirley, and then, as Ms. Garvin mentioned, we then go from the 20,000 or so we get now to the regional amount annually from the state, which is an additional 40,000. And our chiefs, in consultation with them, are confident that this is sufficient.
That was my next question,
Yeah.
Chiefs, while you're all here. Do you have any concerns or anything you wanted to add to this, or?
I think we've discussed everything.
Yeah, no, I figured you did.
We're comfortable with what's being presented on the table.
Okay. Good, that always makes me feel good. Yes.
I have no questions. I'm good. I've read through it. I have no problem with what I've seen. I think it's well done. Thank you, both of you. Appreciate the work, and thank you, all of you, for the work that you put into it. So that's where I stand on it. Mr. Kufi?
Only the alarms, I think the chief was gonna take care of that, right, chief?
Say that again, sorry.
We talked about the alarms that come into show.
Oh,
Yes,
just,
yeah, we're gonna be looking
I
at that.
actually looked into that. We can just, that can be
Just
just a
the
formality,
retake
just a
alarms.
letter, the
But
Jasonics is
we're not gonna be able to do that.
Okay.
It's just a matter of us, we can just eliminate that, just send a notice to the residents in town. And I got the list, it's not many.
And you folks are good with that?
Oh, like,
Yeah,
like
whatever you guys think.
building
Whatever.
alarms? Oh, I see, yeah. Makes sense.
Well,
I understand.
So how would you want this motion for us to, 2 separate motions from both boards, or a joint motion?
To the boards, Mr. Chair, I would respectfully recommend that each boards of selectmen take an individual motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement for regional dispatch dated December 6th, 2017. Have each board take a motion and a vote, and this is on, and I know we're coming up at the end, this is on my computer, ready to go. I'll take Patrice with me just to make that quick
We can wait
change.
for us up there, so that'll be fine.
And we'll have 2 copies for signature.
Okay. You want to go first?
I'd like to make a motion that the Air Board of Selectmen enter into an intermunicipal agreement between the town of Ayer and the town of Shirley regarding a regional dispatch service center, as presented tonight on December 6, 2017.
Effective immediately.
Effective
correct?
immediately.
Second the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye, motion passes for Ayer.
I'll take a motion on the intermunicipal agreement between Ayer and Shirley.
Yeah, the town of Shirley agrees, Madam Chair, in the interim agreement between the town of Ayer and Shirley for December 6, 2017, with the agreement between the 2 communities and the dispatch, proposed dispatch center.
And we'll hear a second. And it will be effective immediately. And your vote, Mr. Kluge?
Aye.
And your vote, Mr. Floyd? And I vote aye.
All right.
Give Patrice and I 2 minutes, and we'll have the 2 copies for everybody to
That's
sign.
good. Give us credit.
Come with me to sign.
Yeah, no problem.
And you can close it.
We should sign it.
We should sign it. Sign first, close afterwards.
Oh, so.
The school can wait for us. They'll still be there.
It's gonna take us forever just to find a place to park.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there tonight.
Something for the fire.
Back.
Still got to do the fire alarm.
Like I said, that was.
Two of you. We're fine. Can I, yeah, I can go, right?
Can't take them.
Yeah, because I asked him, I
All
said,
right.
there's no decision behind it, so.
It's just a.
Just like the
Right.
radio costs.
At least I know my
So
friends
who
are sure.
knows, they may be.
Yeah.
I'm just basing it on last year's estimate.
Congratulations, Clyde.
Thank you. Yes,
Election.
congratulations.
Not sure you know it. Yeah. And I don't mean that towards the shirt, I just want you to know.
You know, I first did this,
Yeah.
was in
I was gonna
1979.
say, you, yeah.
79, and there was nothing to do. I was on a 5-man board in Stoneham, and I tell you, everything was given to us an hour before the meeting. It was virtually in.
Any regulations have changed.
Oh, there was nothing, there was unbelievable, except for the appointment, there was nothing really significant that happened. And then,
That was just
10 years ago,
No,
I
that
did
was
it
just an
again.
estimate.
It was a little bit, but not like that. Today, it's almost a full-time job.
It really is funny. Today, I mean, I'm not always, but today I had time to look for in
Yeah.
my workflow. Lectures, I do these, and I'm late to begin with, so I'm sitting at home. You know, flew home, came here, I got an outfit from school, we met last night. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. And you're all held accountable.
It always goes down.
Wow, they don't know they zero in on
Oh,
it.
yeah. I mean, I wasn't in favor of it first because going to it's tough to just being scary, it's been out for a while.
Weird.
It's
Weird.
weird.
Yeah, sometimes we'll make a motion, and then we're like waiting for the third voice, and then we're looking at each other going, oh,
Yeah, that's always, yeah. But I mean, it's important stuff that makes you want to that's just,
Yeah.
it's like family illness or anything to feel that part of it. It's like that. I like that. And it's for people too. You gotta get the right people who can agree with this in a good manner.
You don't have to agree on it.
No, we don't. Yeah, we're good.
I think one of the problems is
Well, maybe if they're using it more,
towards
they'll become more accustomed.
they know our job better than we do.
Yeah.
Literally don't understand what we do.
They answered
But I know,
But I agree,
we had our turmoil, you guys had your turmoil.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a while to.
It's cyclical, I think, in that sense, when it comes around and goes around.
Yep.
But I do think that, yeah, you know, because everybody's demanding everything,
Yeah.
you can't deliver everything.
Yeah, yeah, look around.
Yeah, well, and I don't want to use that term.
Yeah.
You know, because I sat in that day in and day out, and I used to like ask people about this department. So I know what this department is. So, and I started with the assessors, and I know the collector.
You know, we used to use cyber for warfare.
It's fairly.
So, this is going to be more that trade department. That's why we don't get set out. And you trust your, staff.
I worked with Lisa when she.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was.
You have to use your own pen.
I have a blue one.
She's in.
And we'll start the other one. Selectmen.
How many are there? One? Me too? Cutting that out that quick? You changed all that stuff that quick?
You got all the typos?
Mm-hmm.
Check out the duplicate line?
Mm-hmm.
Did you take out that fee?
I'll take my line.
Yep.
got the
She's
word.
gonna catch you something.
Don't take out.
He messes up everybody's line. Look at his signature.
Oh, nobody
He
can
writes
copy.
all over my
No,
nose.
listen.
Nobody even knows.
Nobody-
who I
no, you
am.
gotta use
That's the nicest my signature has ever been.
Hang on one second.
That's Robert. Signed away licenses last time.
Oh, no,
By the end, it
I'm
looks like a
sorry.
squiggly line.
Sorry, I didn't mean to give you another time.
Yeah, Rico just wrote all over my name, so.
But they can't copy your checks, but who writes checks anymore? Nobody. So it's kind of.
The last time I had to write a check, I had to remind myself how
How
to
do you do
write
it?
a check.
Right, right, exactly.
And then because it was an extra check, I was able to do my signature a little nicer than, you know, when you're on those little pen things and you're like, I don't know what abbreviation that is, but I'll go with it.
Nice and
That's
clean
nice,
tonight?
that was
Yeah.
nice.
can,
You can see it.
automatic.
All right.
Trust it.
Round number two.
Oh, yeah.
Possibly 3, 4, 5, 6.
Million?
All right. Congratulations, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they want
Done and for both of us. I have faith
Chief,
in
we'll
this
have
board
you guys
leaders
sign.
and the town administrators.
There you go, Justin.
Iron all this out.
Who's the other one?
We'll take all the credit, but they did all the work.
Oh, yeah, right.
Did you people start your charter yet for your town manager form of government?
Done.
The charter?
We didn't do charter, we did special act through town meeting.
Oh, you did?
Yep,
Oh, so it's all approved?
yep, but then setting the
We're
lid
just
down
waiting for
the.
the legislature, yeah.
Right, yeah. They-
Yeah, but town meeting,
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, it's pretty much one of the.
Yeah, that and
You guys have to go to school?
the treasurer, town
That's
clerk,
gonna be-
and something else, warden, and what was the other position?
I didn't want to say
Town
that.
manager,
That's
treasurer,
gonna be a long
To be appointed.
town clerk.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
That'll be fine.
Yeah, once he's officially manager, he's.
Oh, thank you.
You gotta work out.
Oh, really?
Anything else?
He's no idea.
Motion?
Make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to the Air Force Selectmen adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
You just gotta have
I'll take a
Yeah.
motion.
find out what it is. we can do,
Yeah, we need
And then
numbers.
I want a whole checklist. I want a whole case.
So I just want to sit down like that.
And I-
That's what you need to do.
Good night, everybody.